Fairy Possum. Dance was her everything. The lock that guarded her heart, the language which expressed fears, her escape of choice, and the only thing that, in the end, saved Feeorin's life. Feorin's passion for dance was instinctual and rooted in her species' folklore, which stayed secret among high Australian treetops for thousands of years. Dancing brought families together and defined beauty among the fairy possum tribes. It was the whirlwind that honoured spirits present and past by finding rhythm in their hearts. Being graceful in the air was part of Feorin's fairy lineage. She was taught by her mother how to bounce from tree to tree. 2 steps from the stem will lift you up, up and away, her mother would say. Feorin's mother also taught her where to find the best needles for a nest, and sometimes would reveal her favourite place for a kiss. Feorin didn't look like the fairies in movies, although she could do all the same things. She could fly, though she didn't have wings. She had extrasensory perception and had a real gift at making things move. Life on the canopy was idyllic for the young Feorin. She always had plenty of insects to eat, there were no predators, and the views were breathtaking, to say the least. But as the years passed and the trees began to fall, Feorin's childhood innocence faded. She began recognising differences, asking more and more questions, and exploring beneath the safety of the canopy into the lower branches, even though she was told not to. But Feorin needed it for survival and sanity. There became a stark difference between her life in the branches and her life at home. Home was strict, regimented, and focused on past traditions. Everything had its place. There was a right and a wrong and consequences for each. For Feorin, the safety of home was drifting further from her heart, and discovering answers in the dark became the light that guided her. Feorin loved unique variations to her movement, elaborate twists, fierce turns, quick steps that could clearly express how she was feeling. She would spend hours upon hours among the branches, moving to the music within her heart. Feeling the air between each hair on her body made her feel alive and free. But as the season changed, Feorin began feeling that there were many things her mother had not taught her. Down below, Feorin was thriving in deep conversations with friends, experimenting with telekinesis and dancing wildly while all were watching. She noticed the other little possums with more useful magic, better suited accents of expression and a sense of confidence and charisma. Feorin's mother knew she preferred life in the branches, but she never thought that Feorin would run away from home. From the moment Feorin landed among the branches, she felt a deep sense of relief. She didn't always have her mother desperately trying to connect, darting questions as an attempt to keep tabs on all aspects of her life. If there was one thing Feorin loathed, it was being smothered by her mother's desperation and fear of loneliness. For the first time in her life, Feorin felt free. She was able to express herself honestly, dance with raw purity, and celebrate her cosmic purpose. She and her friends would bathe in the ancient pools hidden in the decayed mountain ash gums. They would stay up all night drinking vintage sap wine just to watch the sunrise with each other. But with each sleepless night, Feorin's past started to catch up with her. She started to recognise a sadness tucked in between the silence of her friends' heartbeats. Were they just as lost and lonely as she was? Feorin closed her eyes. If she was truly honest with herself, she missed her mother. Feorin would take a sip of wine and remember her mother dancing up, up and away. One morning, while restlessly resting, she heard a thunderous crash. She bounced out of her nest, up, up and away to the canopy. In the distance, Feorin was witness to the end approaching. Machines, buzzing, hidden screams. They echoed through the forest. Her heart beat faster and faster. In the silence of her being, she recognized something familiar. It was as if time had been found again and apologies had been said. Feorin's heart was now beating louder and clearer. She was being guided by a familiar love, her mother's movements pulsing inside her. Feorin embraced the fear of becoming her mother. She knew, if she kept listening, dancing her truth, that forgiveness would be her new best friend, and that the swaying branches would be her new constant, a melody which would protect her and guide her home to herself.
The fairy possum, also known as Leadbetter's possum, is a critically endangered mammal with a dwindling habitat. Rarely seen, these marsupials are nocturnal, fast-moving, and live within the hollows of large trees. The species is primarily found in small pockets of alpine ash, mountain ash, and snow gum forests in the Central Highlands of Victoria, Australia. The fairy possum is listed as critically endangered on the IUCN Red List of Species, which lists the conservation status of species at risk across the globe. The hollow-bearing trees in these forests are one of the most fire-prone environments on Earth and are vital for the fairy possum's survival. Population estimates of the fairy possum are a challenge to determine due to the elusive nature of this species, but it is clear that the remaining population is very small and declining rapidly towards extinction. Protecting forests from deforestation and commercial logging are seen as the primary ways to help fairy possums survive. The most effective ways we can help this unique possum is by raising awareness about its conservation status and supporting research and breeding programs. Locally, Zoos Victoria advises against using timber and paper products from important forest habitats, and instead using recycled papers where possible, including toilet paper. For more information on how and where you can contribute, please check out the links in the show notes.